Hey guys, this is Mike with Door and Lock Tips. We're going to be talking about barrel locks again. We're only going to pin up the lock. We're not going to do anything else. We're just going to pin it up, but that will include measuring the key and then pinning it up to that key. So let's jump into the show. So here's the gem lock. It's taken apart. Had to remove that pin, and here's the inner guts of the thing. Pretty cool. This is sinterine metal. This rear end part holds that lock stable in this long housing. That's an 1.5 inch housing. I'll show you a little trick on that I come up with on the fly, really. Here's a shorter ace lock. These are real easy to work with. Highly suggest if you're going to pin up a lock, go ahead and buy these ace locks. You can pin them pretty easily yourself. Here we have our setup. Now first we're going to measure the key. So we're going to do this with a tool called eye gauging. Now this thing is spectacular. We'll turn it on. It is a digital depth gauge. I used a special Brown & Sharp base. I'll put the link down in my description. It mounts on this. It gave it a nice lightweight feel. If you guys are like me, I forget to hit that like button. So hit it now. I love this thing. If you don't use this base, I'll show you what you need. You need this big monster that came with it. Imagine this heavy monster trying to do teeny weeny keys. Now that is just absurd. This thing is solid steel. It came with it. This was only like $70. It might be $100 now, but when I bought it, it was about 70 bucks, and they come with these cheap bases. So this one was about $80. Might have been $100, but look at how cool this base is. It has a collet that slides over it. Isn't that cool? A little grease on there. Anyway, a collet slides over, and this depth gauge slides up and down like this. You may have never seen one. If you're going to measure keys, I highly suggest you buy this. I mean, there's other ways of doing it, but boy, does this make it simple. Just tighten this collet down. Hey guys, stay till the end. I got a blooper that happened right here. Here's a chart. Now we're going to be looking at the Chicago Ace for the cuts because I use a very inexpensive cutter. It's called Wen Ying. It's okay, but it's set up for the Chicago Ace cuts, not this gem, which you're going to be pinning up the gem lock, but the gem numbers are one step behind what the ace are. So if you have a 16th 1.016, that is a 0 right here on this depth cut of a gem, but on an ace it's a number 1. And if your cutter, like mine, is set up for just one kind of cut, the most commonly used in the United States is the ace. So the ace locks, the most inexpensive locks on the planet, you can get them from Amazon. Well, they are going to be at this cut depth right here, 0.070, right? That's what that was, 0.070. And what is this saying? Is no 0.070, but there is something close. So you got a 0.064. That is what you round backwards to. Always go backwards if you have a cut slightly bigger than what you have on this chart. Always go backwards. So that makes it a number 4 cut. You're going to write them down on your key gauge chart. Here it is right here. You got to keep real good track, guys. So here's the key. You're looking at it like this. There's that little nub up top. So you just mark where you found that 4 cut. You'd mark it in series 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 cuts to this key, so you keep very good track of it. Now, here's the key that we're going to be pinning to. We have already measured up all the cuts on this. I want to get all this preliminary stuff out of the way, so don't get discouraged. So here's all the cuts. The first cut was a 0. So we are going to use the GEM measurements on that chart. For the very first cut was a 0, then a 4, then a 4, a 6, a 6, a 2, and a 0. So there we have that. You're just going to write down a chart kind of like this for your tubular keys if you're going to be making several of these keys, or you're going to be pinning up several of these locks. So here's our GEM lock. I've got it all pulled apart. I'll show another video on how to pull this apart, exactly how to pull this apart, okay? Because you need to know. But for this one, just to save some time, I'm not going to show that. I've showed it in other videos, but it just takes another 15 minutes to show you how to do that. Check out my other video of me taking apart one of these tubular locks by drilling out that retaining pin. Let's get back to the video. Our GEM lock, it's 1 1/2 inch. Makes it kind of difficult when it's deeper like this. Now they look identical to the Ace locks. They really do. This Ace lock right here on the face looks pretty much 1 extra notch, but it looks identical. It's just different lengths. But this one, the package said it was a CompX lock. Difference with a CompX tubular lock is they're a lot better. They're about $29. And this is a GEM flavor of the tubular locks. Now, let's pin this bad boy up. You know, I should mention there's other ways to measure these keys. Here's several different companies making the same type of gauge, but these just don't have any fancy way of doing it. You can't tell the depth, you just know the numbers. So like on this one, if we say that was a 4, we'll just go to that cut again, I think. Yeah, right here. See, it just slides in. So it would be a number 4 like that. You see it's slightly different length there, but is it a 5? It's too tall, so a 4 is as close as you're going to get. That's a 4. I crack myself up sometimes. So under the heat of battle, with the hot camera lights burning a hole in my brain, I didn't quite get that measurement right. But you know what? I did pin all this correct. So my small yellow handwritten pinning chart was correct. And I followed that to the letter. And everything worked out great. I have something so unique here. This is made by HPC. It's an SUT-137. It is ancient, 50 years old, holds tubular locks beautifully. It holds it right there by the shaft that comes out of the lock. Holds it in this really neat way of doing it. Special nut, all set in there cool. I just ordered some stuff from Amazon that we're going to be able to duplicate how this is done, because you really have to hold your lock like this by the end of this shaft. You just have to do it. So we'll get this Ace lock out of the way. Here's the inside guts. Pretty cool, huh? This one slides around because that's the back of the lock. This is the front of the lock. This is called a rotor, and this turns with the shaft. This one's locked in place on that milling mark. This is really high end. The material here is called sintering material. It's all pounded metal, and they heat it up to about 3,000 degrees. See all them little bumps on there? Everything you see in this video, even the stuff that I ordered, will be down in the description. Little granules of metal, and it makes a killer casting when they heat it up and it melts together. Super strong. Sintering metal. Okay, that's what that is. Here's all our pins right here. I have them on a pinning tray. This is an old A1 pinning tray. It's not really easy to work with, but it makes great shots because it doesn't reflect in my camera. You're going to pin up gem locks. You're going to need this. Very inexpensive. I think I paid $70 for this. Here's all the pins. They have round little circle slots on them, which really don't mean anything. I guess they use it for manufacturing. Got to put that in first. Then here's the pins that hold the lock in the barrel. It really pays off to replace these with set screws when you have the lock apart. And then you have your springs. Hold on to all your extra springs, guys. You're going to need them. And there's our measurements. Linear caliper. And I wrote in the measurements. Now, if you don't go however you set this up, like this is the number 1 chamber, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, and number 7. I laid out the pins so that I don't get mixed up. This is number 1, 2, 3, and so on. And I laid the pins all in that order. These are the springs, these are the top pins, and these are the bottom pins. Barrel locks are super hard to work with. You got to have your pins in order. I marked my key so that when you look at the key like this on that chart, Chicago Ace is counterclockwise. That's going to be number 1. So there's your number 1 cut. Now I marked it in blue so I wouldn't get mixed up. And then how I do this is here is our very back part of the lock. Slides on this shaft like this. Very back part of the lock. And I marked it so that I would not get mixed up. Like this, I hold my key and then I just mark the front and the back part that I'm going to be loading, so I don't get mixed up, because it's real easy to do. The order to this is putting the springs in the back part of the lock. This is called the barrel. You put them in first. If you don't, you won't be able to really load this. So there is a sequence to this whole thing. I just lost one. But now I'm short a spring. Now let me show you why you don't want to lose your springs. You don't have that many of them in the kit. That's pretty sad. They don't give you hardly any springs. I don't know why, but they just don't. Man, are those hard to hold. They barely are held by this pinning tweezers. You realize the outside diameter of these pins and springs is 0.076. That's the smallest I found in the lock world. I don't know, maybe you guys know of something smaller, but that round part that they expanded on these lab tweezers, that's just about the size it is. So when you close it, it almost doesn't hold. All right, so now we've loaded that up. Now here's what we do next. We take the whole system and you slide it down in here and you line up your marks. All right, that's how you do it. And then I had to make a spacer because this length is very unusual. My old jig does not have a spacer this long. So I took a pen and I cut a piece of plastic, and I used a clear one so I would know what measurement to come up with. Working with this, you don't want to let this slide like that. Otherwise, all your springs will go flying. But in this case, I haven't got the top drivers in yet. So I put it in my jig, tighten it down nice and tight. But what we have to do is we have to line those blue marks up, because you got to have these top holes lined up with the back holes. This is a small Allen wrench, but you can take even a paper clip, but you got to line these up. Make sure all the springs are in here. You only got one chance here. If you've blown a spring out, like I lost that one spring, and you're not aware of that, when you're pinning this, you're going to hate life because you're going to have to tear it all down again. All right, here are the back pins. Now these back pins have a round part on both ends. One side's a little shinier than the other. So I highly suggest that you check that with your pinning kit to make sure that you are using the round part facing up, because it's got to be at the shear line. So I'm going to go ahead and put in my first back pin. So we call them the drivers. Don't get mixed up now. Would really hurt. You can't tell. So I got number 2 I just put in. Number 3. See how that isn't quite going down? You got to be really careful. You can shoot this across the room. Boy. Sometimes you gotta loosen this up just slightly. All right, there we go. That's got to be moving, man. Putting in the 4th one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oopsie. All right, 4, 5, 6, and 7. All right, let me make sure they're all down. Won't go in. You have to be really careful. I do not want to pull away too fast here and shoot the springs and the drivers across the room. It's that simple. That's why you got to have a jig. I'm going to show you how to make one, because you're going to say, how do I do this? Well, I thought of a way. My next adventure here is going to be the top pins. These are the key pins. This key pin has a flat right there, and it has a round part right there. And that notch, I think, was just to keep them knowing which direction to put this in. Put the key in this lock. This flat part, which is right there, has to be facing the cut. The round part would make a different measurement, so it has to be flat against that cut. Makes sense? Put this pin in. It's very springy at this point. If you push down with this tweezer and you just move off the side, it'll go shooting across the room. We don't want to do that. You only have limited amount of springs. So I'm putting this in so the cut is facing down and the flat part is facing up. There's our second. I think they really did this notch for a reason. So they knew which direction to put this in. Left hand. Make sure these are going down though. Yep, they're going down. Just out mid-air. Very unlike a regular lock. A pin tumbler lock. They're different. Now I gotta make sure I'm facing the flat part up. Flat part is up. Flat part is up. And our last pin, flat part is up. All right, so we got them all in. I made this special spacer is because this will not allow a big spacer. Let's say this was the big spacer here, like this. And if it hit some way, then it won't go in. Remember that game Operation? The game is kind of like this. It really is. All right, now we're going to put the barrel over the top, just like that game Operation. Very gently. You don't want to be crooked. You don't want to hit the face of these pins. You're going to hold it and you're going to put it right over the top. You're going to make sure you're lining up with let's see if I wrecked it. I may have. Something's not right. Yeah. Look at that. I dumped them. It's about time. Don't forget to hit that like button. Can you believe it? It's real easy to do because the pins, like I say, are sticking way up. And this will not go down when that's all messed up inside. Right, I'll put them back in. All right, let's try it again. Now I got to make sure this bolt hole right here is lined up with that. That was my problem. I turned it and I tipped the pins. So let's do it again. Got to slide it over just perfectly. Okay, I think I did it. I want to put in the nut. We're going to find out for sure if I did it. So I have a set screw. I turn this in. And this holds it all together. You're allowed that much play. But let's just see if I wrecked it or if I made it work. Let's see if all the pins are there. I think I see them all. I don't see this one up here, but you know, that don't mean nothing. Let's see if this works. Oh yeah. Works perfect. And see this shaft is turning? So there you have it, guys. Oh no. Oh, you know, I forgot. This can slide. It doesn't mean nothing. On this particular gem lock, I was thinking I was wrong, but what holds this in place is the back end. And how do we get that in place? I almost forgot the last part. This was pressed into place. Let me make sure everything's working. Yep. Hold on to this because it's getting caught inside the barrel of the key. So now how we do this is we got to press this over back to where it was at. Now I marked there's several slots on the inside, and notice this, it has a nub sticking out. See that nub right there? So those have to line up. So I marked where the cuts were on the inside of the barrel. We'll call this the housing. And now I'm going to line those back up. When you do that, it'll slide right over. And you got to press it in slightly. I heard something hit the ground. Space or what? All right, that's in place. That's all the further that has to go. Well, actually, I think it has to go a little further because what we're going to do is we have to put this on. This is a limiter washer. It limits how far that key goes. Had a guy call me up and he goes, "My key spins around in circles. What do I do?" Well, he lost his limiter. So let me make sure I'm doing this limiter right. So the key is going to turn all the way till it hits right there on the limiter. There's a nub. See that nub? So that cutout goes all the way to the back side of that nub. It's on this one right now. So is that the way it should go? If I turn it, no, that's counterclockwise. So I want to put this on the other way. Otherwise my notches won't work out. Won't be able to get my key out. So I turned it the other direction so that these notches will be in the right spot. So you're going to want to put your tailpiece on. And your nut. This came with a washer. And this keeps the piece from coming out. There's another way. There's a pin inside of there I could have put in place, but I didn't. And so that's why this is happening. There was a little hole I could have put a spring in and would have kept that in place. So there we have this. All nicely done. Let's see if our key works. Yep. You can't see the limiter underneath there, but maybe you can. Yeah, see how the limiter hits right there? And hits over there. There we have it. Our gem lock is pinned up. Stay till the end. You get to see the blooper. Pretty severe. Thanks, guys. Hit that like button. Subscribe to my channel, and I'll have more beautiful gem locks like this coming in the future. I love these tubular locks. They're hard to work with, so I figured I'd show you how to do it. Next is going to be seeing how I make use of a drill and a tap from Amazon, a plate of metal, to duplicate basically what this is. See this? This is cool though. If you ever run across this particular item, I mean, I know it's 50, 60 years old, but they still sell them. I found this on eBay. So my buddy Bob Oden, he has this YouTube channel called Locksmith Tips, and he called me up and he said, "Hey Mike, that jig is on eBay. You need it. Buy it." I'm not going to buy it. Thought, oh my, I can't wait to get it. So I bought it. Thanks again. This is Mike with Door and Lock Tips. We're going to do a fly-in as usual. And look at, I got my HPC spinner. These things are over $100, these spinners. And I turned it into a microphone stand. I have my black light that throws some special color on the scene. Here is a bunch of goodies. Your break-in tools. Oh, my killer flashlights. I just recently got this one. I don't know if I particularly like it, but it is teeny. It is a weird little flashlight. Look at this. You turn the head on it. Isn't that weird? It's magnetic on the back. But I do like this one. Oh man, this is a killer flashlight. This will blow your brain out. Look at how bright this is. I burned myself with it the other night. Has a laser on it. A green laser. Look at that. Green laser. And then, for impressioning keys, it has a UV light. We call that a black light. great tool. So there we have it, guys. Mike with door and lock tips. I hope you had as much fun as I did. Please smash that like button. Smash it, smash it, smash that like button. Tell your friends, and I'll have more stuff like these killer barrel locks coming to you in the future. They call them tubular locks as well. Okay? So please smash that like button and subscribe. Tell your friends. This is Mike with door and lock tips. Yeah! Yeah! Just tighten this collet down on him. Oh! Oh, that was disaster. I dropped it. Well, there is no .0100070. There is no .070, but there is